Hello, good morning. I'm TK, and welcome to Coach on the Rocks. Lovely to see you on this wonderful morning or whatever time it might be for you. Hopefully, you're having a great day. Today, I wanted to talk, as always, about something that inspired me recently. Well, I don't know if I would necessarily say inspired, because it's a difficult one. So, what happened is quite recently, one of members of the Agile Ways of Working community has put up a conference, and they invited some people to speak. There's a panel, and it turned out that the people they've invited are all white men. And what happened is one of these wonderful people decided to post on LinkedIn saying, "Well, because of the lack of diversity, they will bow out of the conference." And it started a LinkedIn conversation, dare I say, a bit of drama. So what's there is it's very hard to read because a lot of people are putting a lot of toxicity into this conversation. The organizer of the conference apologized. He actually tried to do good. He explained everything with transparency. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there that he did it unintentionally. And, I don't want to virtue signal myself, but we had an episode about diversity and how important it is for us in Humble Associates. But what happened in the community, in the LinkedIn thread, is there's a lot of toxicity, canceling, personal attacks. Overall, it's very nasty. Something that I definitely didn't want to take part into because I didn't see what I can add and what's the value there. But I think what's really interesting is to talk about the general principle or the general behavior, because I think naturally these things happen, and they also happen in our organizations. And if you're a member of the HR or people team, how do you deal with that? Well, first of all, I think you can't really stop it. People will talk, gossip will happen, and people will air their grievances. There's nothing you can really do unless you want to start a 1984-esque culture of thought policing, reporting. You probably don't want to go into that unless you're, an intelligence service from some country that necessarily has a sketchy human rights record. Hopefully, it's not you, my wonderful listener. But also, can you just let it slide? Can you just let it happen? And can things evolve into this toxicity, essentially spinning out of control? Because what happens is these things go on to have lives of their own. And I think the interesting thing here is, even though you can't stop it, as a member of the people team, I think the question you want to ask is, talking with your leaders, if you have the opportunity, is to ask them, okay, this is happening. They might or might not be aware of that. And how does this align to the values of the organization you want to create? If by any means, it's an organization that I don't know if you're an HR person in the crime syndicate or the mafia or, a mercenary group. Maybe you are. We'd love to have you on our podcast to get your perspective, but probably not. And it's probably that leaders don't want things like that to happen in their organization, or they would rarely want it, right? So the other question is okay, so what's the value of the discourse and conversation you want to have? And by the way, I've seen things like that happen through different means. They can be about a particular person in the organization, but oftentimes they're about the leaders themselves and the policy they're implementing. So I had a situation where it was a big company, but then again owned by private ownership, and a person had put their family member into a high position of authority inside the company. Many people didn't like it. But on the other hand, the value of the founder was that, they wanted to get the succession planning and help their family. And, well, it's their organization. They have the right to set the culture as they want to. So they communicated it in thinly veiled but still manner. But if you think things escalate to toxicity and your leaders don't want that to happen, I think they need to take a stance. I wouldn't necessarily think it's advisable and helpful and productive to like take sides and so on. But I think what's really important is to talk about the culture of conversation and behavior you have in the organization. What sort of behavior is acceptable, right? Possibly talking about issues or unpopular policies is fair game, is something that I think, some organizations would encourage because it's important for people to have their voice. But ad hominem attack, toxicity, cancel culture, these nasty things are not helpful. And I think a leader's job is to explain it. And the people's team job is to help the leaders understand why it is important. Again, as I always say, and we always say at Humble Associates, it's the leader's first job to demonstrate and set the culture, set the example, so people understand what's acceptable, what isn't. I don't think we should limit discourse. But if we want to hold ourselves to certain values, we probably want to be serious about them. Otherwise, they just become the posters on the wall. Many organizations that I know have this wonderful value of doing the right thing. And the big question is, what is doing the right thing at this particular time? And how, as leaders, are we demonstrating this value? I do not believe that toxicity, personal attacks, and canceling without having a decent conversation is a valuable thing to do. We should probably give people some benefit of the doubt. And as conversations can happen, they shouldn't be hurtful and they always should serve something. Hopefully, our continuous improvement, as much as hopefully, listening to Coach on the Rocks is a part of your continuous improvement every morning at 9:45 London time. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.